I actually I'm into it. I'm totally into it. It's weird. I don't think I would need to do it, but I can see why.
It's not a pancake.
I support the scrambled pancake.
Coming up, the crazy new pancake trend that is sweeping TikTok. Celebrity chef Paul Hollywood's best tips for making muffins and the must-have baking tools for this holiday season. All that and much more on Knead To Know.
Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the co-creator of Bigger Bolder Baking and the Bold Baking Network. And as always,
Hi everyone, I'm Ami, Gemma's culinary assistant and friend.
get this, Ami doesn't know this tip. I wanted a way to share it with you. Making a piping bag for decorating with chocolate or decorating with an icing.
Yes, I'm so excited. I've seen this, I've heard of it, and I've never done it. So
I learned this 20 something years ago when I was training as a chef. Get a square of parchment paper. It doesn't have to be this big, but I just want to make a big bag so I can show you. Fold back a corner like that. Now, you have to kind of do this swiftly. Get a big knife, sharp knife, and just do a clean edge. Just a clean edge. If you mess it up too much, you'll feel it after. You take a corner, you roll it around like a cone, go into the middle here. Do you see this?
wow, yeah.
So you go like that, and you're also meeting the top point here. Pull it back to make it nice and tight. Do you see the way I'm making it nice and
Yes.
tight and it's narrow?
Yeah, really pointy.
Yeah. Just
Almost like there's no opening.
exactly. Like no opening. I have it here. We are going to swirl this around and do it like that. We're making a cone, essentially. And these little peaky bits, we are going to turn in to the cone to create our parchment piping bag. Look at that.
Wow, so you can get a really fine tip with that.
Look at that.
That's
You have to
wow.
cut it. It's so tight, you have to cut that. I'm just going to drizzle some melted chocolate in there. Close it over on that seam.
Wow.
Look at that. And you have a little piping bag. Like so. And then we're just going to do a quick and be very careful. We know that like if you do a lot of piping bags, that...
Wow. Oh my God, that's so cool.
So Daisy, I missed an M there.
That's okay, you can go back and do it.
Hello, how are
Hi.
we doing today?
Good, how are you?
So good to see you both. I am so excited to talk about this week's Hot from the Oven because not only am I bringing you trends, pop culture references, all the gossip and entertainment, we're talking about breakfast today, and I could just not be more excited. The first thing I have to bring up with all is that it is National Pancake Day, which I don't know if you know this, but September holds the record for the most breakfast themed holidays. It has National Pancake Day. We'll talk about a little bit more later with better breakfast, but it got me thinking about the viral trend that was happening over the summer, which I'm so excited because Gemma, I just can't wait to see your reaction. I'm gonna pull it up now
I already feel it.
on
It's
TikTok.
on TikTok. You've already lost me.
If you're following along on YouTube, we'll play the video, and if not, you can go to the show notes. Link to the video is there. But this is the viral scrambled pancake trend.
What?
Don't take this the wrong way, but you've been making pancakes wrong your whole life.
Stop.
Did you know that you're supposed to scramble
Oh,
them
this is
just
so
like how
good.
you
I should show this to my
scramble eggs?
kids. Don't
And
worry
it's
if
so
you
much
ruin the
easier this way.
pancake.
You don't have to worry about getting the perfect circle or whatever.
Is she for real?
Of course, I had to make my daughter her usual Mickey Mouse pancake because she refused to try
And it
the
has,
scrambled ones. And this is hers. And I ended up scrambling the rest of them. As you can see, it's very
And
easy.
45,000
Just scoop your
people have
batter and
saved
start
this video.
scrambling it around.
Wow,
You
that's
wanna make
because
sure most of the
people are
pieces
like, oh,
get,
when you
golden
flip a
brown,
pancake and
like
it
this.
breaks, and then you're
yeah.
like, oh, I've ruined it, or that's the one I'm gonna eat while I bake the rest.
That you enjoy, I added powdered sugar,
What?
whipped cream, blue
No.
Yeah.
Pancake.
Isn't that so? Okay.
Weird.
Wait, have you tried this?
I have not tried it, but I saw it and I literally busted up laughing. I was like, I cannot wait to show this to Gemma because it's so, what? It's not a pancake.
You know what? I think this is brilliant. This is brilliant. This is you make a mistake, you find a way to make it work. You put it out there. People are love it. And then like who hasn't broken a pancake when they've like flipped it too soon,
Yeah.
or like flipped it off the pan or whatever. And now you have a way to just like, this is easy. You could actually do it. Then she's doing it with just a pancake at a time, but you could do like 3 or 4 and just
the whole
scramble
batter.
them up, and then little kids can eat this with their hands. This is like, I'm into it. I'm totally into it. It's weird. I don't think I would need to do it, but I can see why.
It's not a pancake.
Yeah.
I support the scrambled pancake. I'm going to take a stand on this. I think it's kind of cool.
I just feel like I'm leaning towards agreeing with Gemma as like the best part about a pancake is that it's fluffy.
Well,
and you don't get that when it's all
you don't.
scrambled.
Well, maybe
yeah.
it is, but how do you
fluffy
know?
pancake.
I think I don't.
I know that's not. I saw the same video that you saw.
I feel like okay, but see, I think with these things, with these trends, it is fun to try.
I agree, and I think for kids, like you said, I think George would be into that.
I have to say, I think I'm way more into the scrambled pancake than I am into the cookie croissant. Like, just I don't know. I don't know.
I do think there is like, it reminds me of like, I think it was a few years ago now when people were making mini pancakes.
So that's when I saw that, then I thought back to the cereal, which was mini,
those just like little silver,
pancakes,
like $silver
They were
pancakes.
tiny,
Smaller than a silver
cereal.
dollar.
And then they'd put them in a bowl with like milk in them.
What?
Or you know what I saw recently? Mini croissants for cereal put into bowls with milk. Yeah.
See, you lose me at the milk.
Wait, you put you douse croissants in milk?
They were teeny tiny croissants. Joel shaking his head saying no. I'm with you, Joey. No, it's all weird. This whole thing. And then I would see like my friends recreate it on their like Instagrams and stuff. And I'm just like, oh.
Have you seen the whole like teeny tiny thing? Like tiny little cakes and tiny
Oh,
little,
yeah.
like that's a thing.
Like Tiny Chef.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
people like
It's
that.
adorable.
Yeah, that's like just like all these like little like tiny little,
That is fascinating to me. The tiny kitchens and everything.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I just think like how, I've seen people make sourdough. Have you seen that?
Well, no, but see, that's art. That's not food. I think I mean, you can eat it,
It's
but
incredible.
it's
incredible.
It's incredible. It's creative. That's more like
Yeah.
an arty experience than you would think. But like the little mini pancakes that you eat like cereal,
No,
like
it's weird.
it's just labor intensive. And what's
Yeah.
the point? Like the scrambled pancakes is quick.
Yeah.
So I get it.
And it's
You know,
like
'cause you could
intentional. I messed
Yeah.
up, but no, I did this on purpose.
Yeah, right. But it's like it's also it's the same idea. It's like this tiny. You could certainly put that in a bowl of milk and eat it. You know, I guess if that's
What's your thing?
That's what you're into.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not on board with that.
Well, we want to know what you think. So please comment on this video. Let us know on social media. Are you a fan of the scrambled pancake, or maybe you're a waffle person? But we want to know from you, what is your preferred breakfast? But as we move on to the next topic, so it is Better Breakfast Month. All of September is all about making sure you're starting your day with a really healthy, well-balanced breakfast. And so I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think are the top most balanced breakfasts? Breakfast?
is there an answer to this or what?
No.
Like in our
Just like what do you think is like a balance? Like what? Because I mean, a better breakfast. You know, if you're someone like me, I don't eat breakfast. So in September, a better breakfast for me would be just eating breakfast. Yeah. But for someone who maybe eats like a donut every day, like what is a better breakfast to have, or a well balanced?
I'm not the biggest breakfast person either, but I do tell a 4-year-old, like, eat your breakfast. That's really important. It's going to give you muscles and going to give you energy for the day. So, like, even though, like, I can go on to 12 o'clock without eating anything, I will say, just especially as I get older, like, I do find myself, like, I'll have a third coffee rather than eat something, which is just so bad. And I've done it already today, and I feel like my nerves are got up here. But I do feel like definitely the edge, like I'll have a better lunch if I eat breakfast. If I don't eat breakfast, I'll have like a big bowl of like leftover pasta or pizza or like a big cheesy quesadilla or whatever. Like,
Absolutely.
like a
You
12-year-old.
you have this sort of emotional eating when you're overly hungry because you haven't had a balanced breakfast. My rule of thumb is always a little protein, something fresh, and something to fill you up. So if you're really having a balanced breakfast, eggs, toast, and some fruit.
Yeah.
Eggs is a really
Smoothie. A smoothie and a piece of toast. I mean, we're big toast eaters in my family. We love a good piece of like just whole grain sourdough or something, and so that to me is really satisfying. But even just a quick smoothie with some chia seeds in it and made with Greek yogurt, so there's like protein in there. You could even do like a better for you pancake or muffin where you've switched out some of the white flour with whole wheat flour. You've maybe added an extra egg or some chia seeds or flax seeds. You can switch out some of the all-purpose flour for almond flour to add a little heft and a little more nutrient in there.
That's a good one. I never actually, because we talked about this previously about swapping out my pancake batter, but I never put in almond flour. That's a good one.
I did that last week. My favorite thing is to take Gemma's pancake recipe and then do all sorts of really cool
And
things
make it
with
not Gemma's recipe.
Well, no,
But
because
don't you dare scramble those.
the
those
ratio.
recipes.
I'm going to scramble. I'm going home and scrambling them.
You're not allowed.
But so like a couple weeks ago, again took like the ratios are so good with this pancake recipe, and I did a little, I did my usual half and half whole wheat all-purpose flour, but then I took some of the all-purpose flour and then I put in some almond flour in place. And then instead of the vanilla, I used almond extract. And my kids were like, it's like a marzipan pancake. And they loved it. And it was like really like so good for them. They were eating almonds. It had whole wheat in it. But they just went crazy for them. They were like, those are the best pancakes ever. So
I will tell you the little story behind my pancake batter on my website. I think it's like... oh gosh, is it like best buttermilk pancake recipes
they're
or
super
something?
Fluffy and light.
They're like really thick. They're so good. But anyway, the long story short was I didn't grow up with American pancakes, obviously, and they didn't become a thing in Ireland until like recently. Like we never, even though buttermilk is a big common ingredient in Ireland, but we always had crepes or like pancakes that are really thin. It just wasn't really known or done that you would have a big thick pancake. So I did become obsessed with them when I came to America, and I was in my 20s. I worked for a family in San Francisco minding, I did this like kind of part-time minding their child. Anyway, I went with them away one weekend to Napa, and they had their friends join, and they wanted me to make breakfast one morning. And Christopher, the father in the family, gave me his family's pancake recipe on a little Post-it. And he said, this is what I want to make, but make it for everybody. It's like, okay, so there was like 8 adults or something, so I'm going to have to multiply this. And I have these, they're not even moments, but I've always struggled with like math and things like that. So I had one of those moments where I multiplied it wrong. I multiplied the whole recipe wrong, which was so common. I don't do it as much anymore, but it was so common for me when I was a little bit younger. And anyway, I multiplied the recipe wrong. It wasn't the flour, I multiplied the raising agents wrong. And I went to cook them off. I made up the batter and I cooked them off that morning. And these pancakes were so thick and amazing. And Christopher and his wife were like, what did you do to the pancakes? I was like, I didn't do anything. I just followed the recipe you gave me. And they were like, I've never seen them come out like this before. And I was like, well, this is the recipe that you gave me. And it wasn't until like ages later, I was like, oh, I multiplied it wrong. But we ended up with these like gorgeous, big, lovely, thick pancakes that I put in my first cookbook as Christopher's Pancakes. And that's the recipe on the website. Also works really well as a waffle batter. But those are like the best. Those are the best pancakes.
And those are, I'll make those on a weekend and then freeze them, or even in the refrigerator. You can have pancakes then last you 3 or 4 days and just pop a couple in the microwave and just have a hot pancake easily. So that's an easy breakfast.
Yeah, we do that here too. We put them in the freezer, and then I'll actually, we waffle it, and I'll put it back into the waffle machine to crisp it.
Yeah, or
he has no
the toaster.
idea.
We do it in the toaster.
Oh yeah, we haven't got a toaster. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Now I gotta know, this just came to me, but I was once in Palm Springs at this restaurant, like famous restaurant in Palm Springs, and I ordered a pancake, and when I bit into it, there was pieces of corn.
Oh, like
whole corn kernels. And I was like, what? What did I order? But on the menu, it doesn't, and the menu didn't say that there was corn.
It wasn't a corn.
It was just like, whatever the name of the restaurant is, Pancake, right? And so then isn't that, have you ever?
It's not weird. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I know. I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
So
I don't.
I do, even though I don't eat breakfast, I want to know the name of what it said on the menu, because that's kind of important. But in Commonwealth countries, and so this is why I'm familiar with Australia, England, and in Ireland too, we would get, Ireland is not, Republic of Ireland is a Republic of Ireland, but we would get influences from there. Is that you would have, it's very common to have a recipe called corn fritters. And they look like pancakes, but they're a savory pancake that has corn in it. Oh. And it's just like a pancake batter, but it has corn in it and it's savory, and it's not served with maple syrup or anything like that. You could have butter on top. Very common breakfast in Australia, a part of a breakfast in England, and you would find the recipe in Ireland too. But I had a breakfast catering business when I first moved to San Francisco when I was 26, 27. And one day I catered breakfast in a tech company. And one day I made them corn fritters. I was trying to like mix up the recipe, mix up the breakfasts. And they didn't, and I made them pancakes before, but anyway, it wasn't, I knew these are not pancakes, they're fritters. Nobody knew what they were. And everyone thought they were pancakes. So then, like, the next day I was in the office and someone was like, can we give you some feedback on your breakfast? And they were like, no corn in the pancakes. And I was like, they weren't pancakes, they were fritters. And I didn't even argue, because I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah. They literally had never seen it before.
Really quickly, as we all know, I love blueberries. And so I wanted to bring up from professional chef and the host of the Great American Bake Off, Paul Hollywood, has this whole article about making the best blueberry muffins, and his best tip, and this was the tip, was to be gentle. That's the tip. So I want to know, do you have a tip do you agree with the tip? Do you think that there's a better tip out there for making really nice, perfect blueberry muffins?
Is that a tip though? I mean, to be fair.
I mean, and as he gets a little bit more into it, the basic emphasis of it is not to burst the blueberries,
so to gently fold the blueberries,
right? To be gentle with the blues. He was quoted, "Don't burst your blues," and I just think a great quote for life. Don't burst your blues.
I didn't read that article, and I don't think I will. But I would have thought when you said be gentle, it's about the mixing of a muffin, because mixing a muffin batter, just like pancakes, you really have to just bring it together. Leave some lumps are okay, and then bake it. That's how you get, people always want those really tender, store-bought kind of Costco muffins that are so soft. That's one of the ways you'll get that. So the blueberries are grand, because if they're fresh blueberries, they're not going to burst. If they're frozen defrosted, then you do want to put them in last minute and then just mix in really gently, because so they don't bleed through your batter.
Right. And inevitably if they're frozen blueberries, usually, I don't think I've ever made blueberry muffins with frozen blueberries where they haven't bled a little bit.
You know, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
But they still taste really good. My rule of thumb with all muffins is cut back the sugar. There's always way too much sugar. Overfill your cup. I mean, you can fill your cups fairly high. I think I like a tall muffin. Little lemon zest, even if your blueberry muffin does not call for lemon zest. Lemon zest is always super nice in a muffin. And, replace a quarter or up to a half of that all-purpose flour with whole wheat. It just is nice. Like, do a white whole wheat. It adds flavor. It makes them heartier. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, that's all I have from Hot from the Oven. Thank you both so much. And if there's any trends out there that you want us to touch base on, again, go to social media, comment on the video, let us know, and we'll be happy to talk about it. But now I'd love to get into the mix here, where we take a deeper dive. I want to stay on the theme of breakfast, and I want to talk donuts. Donuts to me are something that, that's a treat. I feel confident making a muffin at home, but I don't know if I feel confident making donuts. I'm going to go out and get it. So what are some tools that you can have in your home that will really help not only make that easier for like an amateur baker, but make it more accessible, I guess.
This is where Ami, I think, I kind of know what Ami's going to say, so I'm going to say what I would do. And I know what she's going to say. Well, because we've been through this before. We've made donuts here, and I would say, okay, so get me a pan and some oil, and heat the oil to medium, and then Ami's like, where's your thermometer? And I'm like, oh, here she goes now with the thermometer. So anyway, like, whereas like I would just eyeball it and let it heat up like adequately to medium, and then cook them off without a thermometer. And for a cutter, if they are the cut type of donut, I would just get a big circle cutter and a small circle cutter. You don't need that donut cutter, which is like super cute and everything. But like, I mean, unless you were like making and selling donuts, you just do like the little, like just a big cutter and a small cutter. And then like I would fry them off. You do like doing it without a thermometer. Like I just like I've experienced doing it, so I kind of know what to expect. The thermometer, which is usually Ami's way, would be like just more would give you more consistency. But you can do it without a thermometer.
Well, the problem so my mom used to deep fry things all the time, and she would be like, oh, it's so easy to tell. And you can kind of see when the oil is ready. You know, I've been stuck having to fry something without a thermometer. And there's tests you can do. You can put a little bit of dough into the batter, and if it lifts up and bubbles right away, it's right. You can put the end of a wooden spoon into the oil, and if it bubbles up around it pretty vigorously, it's ready. If it doesn't bubble at all, it's not ready. Those kinds of tests. But what happens is you have a lot of fluctuation. You put dough right into the oil and the temperature goes way down. And when you're deep frying, what you want there to be a crust that develops right away, and then you want the rest of the donut to steam cook. The water in the batter gets hot and cooks the inside. If the oil is not hot enough, you're going to get too much oil seepage before you have a crust forming on the outside of the donut, and then you're going to get a greasy donut. And that's where you get like as opposed to a light fluffy donut, you're going to get something greasy. If the oil is too hot, you're going to get too dark of a crust, and you're going to say, oh, my donuts are burning. You're going to pull them out, and you're going to have a burnt crust and a raw donut on the inside. If you have a thermometer and you keep it right at 350 degrees, 360 degrees, and you try to keep it consistent, you don't put too many donuts in the oil. Maybe you do one or two, depending on the size of your pot. You're going to have much more consistency. You're going to bake those donuts through. They're going to be light and fluffy. So yes, I think 100% a thermometer, and definitely don't buy a donut cutter. That's a single-use tool, and I really don't like single-use tools in a kitchen. I think you can use circle cutters of various sizes, and it's great. So yeah, I would definitely say a digital thermometer, and not so they can cost a little bit, but they you can get simple ones, and they'll last forever. I mean, how often do you use a thermometer?
Also good for candy making.
Yeah.
What are some, I mean, we're about to enter fall baking season. Like, we're already kind of there, but like, I feel like this is where people really gear up. They start stocking their kitchens for all the fun holiday baking that's going to come. What are like the must-have tools, like a thermometer, that you should have, and for what types of recipes?
I think heading into this season, there's two things that pop into my head. Just because of like when we program every year, it's pies for November and cookies for December. Mm-hmm. So a good rolling pin, which you can buy at TJ Maxx, which I think I bought my last one there, which was like, the professional one that doesn't have a handle. Ami doesn't like it because she says that her hands hit the table or whatever.
Well, it kind of hurts my knuckles a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But like, go there, or you can even go to a secondhand store, and they'll often have nice rolling pins and cookie cutters, a good set of cookie cutters, like round, I don't know, we always use my cookie cutters, don't we?
Yeah.
A nest of like big round ones or square ones. And those are really handy.
Yeah, I would definitely say a rolling pin for pies. If you pie tins, just having a stack of 3 or 4. You can get cheap ones at the grocery store or at secondhand shops. Just having 5 or 6. It depends on how many pies you're making. But if you are making pies, having a number of them on hand that don't have to be fancy. If you're not photographing them, they can just be, basic. I have a stack of Pyrex glass pie tins in the back of my cabinet. And
I was just about to ask, is like a glass pie tin better than like those metal, like the
I
throwaway
researched
one?
this at some point, and it turns out that glass bakes up more consistently and better than other pie kinds.
But I do think that the tin gives you a crisper crust. I think that was the results that we found. I would say, like, for baked, so for tins and pie pans and baking trays, definitely hit up like Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, TK Maxx in Ireland, because you can get high quality for a cheaper price. And there, so I would definitely go for quality, but don't go into those big name stores and pay the $20 per pan. Like, definitely hit up those kind of discount shops, because you'll get good quality for way cheaper.
Oh, and I would also throw in, just in terms of tools, a pastry blender and a bench scraper. These things are so great if you're making a lot of pastry.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean they're easy, and you'll use them all the time. And baking sheets. If you've just got like some sturdy, half sheet pans, they're useful for everything. If you don't have a stack of those in your kitchen and you've got room for them, you can roast vegetables on them, you can roast chickens on them, you can bake cookies, you can make cakes, you can do, they're great. They're useful for everything.
Do you have a favorite tool? I currently, my life changed when I got one of those lemon squeezers. And I know that's so silly, but like I think I have an emotional attachment to my lemon squeezer. So do you have a favorite tool in your kitchen?
I'm not a tool fan. I think a little bit like Ami. I would say really for me it's spatulas. And I do have two spatulas that are, they're silicone the whole way. There's no wooden handle. And they can go in, number one, they have sprinkles on them and they're gorgeous, but they can go straight into the dishwasher. Those are my favorite. Oh, and a tool, I would say weighing scales would be a tool, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes.
I love having a scale. I try to measure everything by
Digital
a
weighing
scale.
scales.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the best. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do love my scale.
Yeah, like if you're doing, especially what we do with so much baking and in big volume, but if you're looking for, especially if you're doing bread baking, sourdoughs, like large volumes and stuff, it's so much faster to use a digital weighing scale, and it's easier.
And the best recipes include weights, because then you really know what the chef is going for when they've written the recipes. And I've found if there's a recipe I want to use and there's just volume measurements and I've figured out the weights, I just write those in. If it's in the recipe book, I don't care. I'll just use a pen and I'll put those weights in if it's a recipe I really like, so that next time I'm going back to baking them, I can make something really fast. It's just much faster.
Well, thank you so much for all that insight on the types of tools we need in the kitchen. But something that's so great at the Bold Baking Network is we have an arsenal of professional chefs and bakers. So we're going to hear from one of them now about their thoughts on what tools you need in the kitchen.
Hi, I am Ramon from Gluten Morgan and Bold Baking Network, and I want to show you my 3 must-have baking gadgets. The first one is the slam that I brought from Barcelona, Spain. Ole! It's made of olive wood. Look how nice it is. Beautiful, right? Another gadget that I always take with me when I travel baking all around the world are these baking bags. It's like a Dutch oven, but portable. You put the bread inside of the bag and all the gases are kept inside this bag. Just like in a Dutch oven, but lighter. And the last one, the Crazy Fireman water sprayer. I use it to create artisan steam in my oven. So, have you ever used one of these gadgets? Let me know that in comments, and may the gluten be with you.
Gemma, you just mentioned baking bread, so we actually heard from some of our audience members about things that they want to ask you specifically. So I think it's time to move on to the Bold Baking Hotline. Our first question is a Dutch oven really necessary for baking bread, and what difference does it make?
Yes. I think we probably could agree on that, do we, Ami? Yeah, oh, good. Thank God. 100%. I will tell you, for a long time, I didn't have a Dutch oven, so I did use a cast iron flat disc in my oven, and I put a metal bowl over it, and that worked really well too. But if you do, and I will say, if you're looking for a Dutch oven, definitely go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls or something, because you could get one for $40 and it could be nice and big. It's an investment for sure, like that piece of equipment. But what it does is creates this environment where you get like this really high conducted heat, and giving your bread a lovely thick crust in a dry, what it does is you get two things. Usually when you bake in a Dutch oven, you do your dough with the lid on, and that little space in there with the lid on is going to create steam within the first like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Usually that's kind of the rough range for your bread to grow, but your bread also to get a chewy crust. Then after that time, usually you take off the lid and you let it dry bake, and that's where you get your crisp crust. So I've made doughs in regular ovens with no Dutch oven. I've even made, just recently, I made one of my doughs in a steam oven, and I did not, like, that is specifically for bread, and I did not get anything near the type of results I get from when I use the Dutch oven. So I would say if you're into bread baking, the holidays are coming up, like, treat yourself, put it on your Christmas list or your Hanukkah list, and get yourself a lovely Dutch oven, big enough to do a loaf of bread. Because it really, I have to say, like, it makes me excited, because one of my favorite things, and I posted this on in my stories on like Instagram, is one of my favorite things is the 20-minute mark where I go in, I open up the lid of the Dutch oven, and after scoring, because you score your bread, you put it into the oven, you don't know what you're going to see when you open up the lid, and like every time it's just like gorgeous. Like you just open it up and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so gorgeous, and then you leave it bake for longer. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and I will add, I agree with everything you said, and I'm just...
Cut! She's not allowed to say anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you can use Dutch ovens for scrambled pancakes. It's great.
Oh.
No, but I have a very inexpensive enameled cast iron Dutch oven. It's not a fancy brand. It wasn't $300. I think I got it at Target. And it was, and I've used it for everything. I use it for baking bread. It bakes gorgeous loaves of bread. You can, it's just it's a kitchen workhorse. It's something you can use for everything, from stews and savory baking to roasts to baking bread. Totally worth it. And it's a great thing to have, and it makes the best loaves of bread.
It does. It really, really does. And for years, fans told me, like, do you use a Dutch oven? Can you use a Dutch oven? Tell me how to do it. And I just didn't know. I just did not know. I knew about doing it with the bowl over top, and that would give you good results. I did get great results from that. But Dutch oven is the way to go. If you're into bread making, then it's definitely worth it.
All right. Our next question is, what is a dough whisk and how does it work?
I have one in there.
Is that like a dough hook?
No, so it's this looped, it's a long handle with a looped metal thing.
That?
Oh.
So I think I have one, and you get it when you buy like bread sets on like Amazon, stuff like that. What does it? It's a Danish dough hook. What does it? It's handy when you have a big, often like in kitchens we would have had big tubs of dough.
Okay.
And that will get down into the bottom and really help you mix it up really well and evenly. So for that reason it's good. I'm not 100% sure of the exact technical reason.
Right.
I have to say, like, I make one loaf of bread here and I don't feel the need to use it. I mix it by hand. Is there something I'm missing about why it's so good?
No, I'm trying to see, like I use just a regular big wire whisk when I'm whisking dry ingredients. Like what's the difference?
Well, it's just once your water is added in, it combines
it's for water. It's not. It's like once it's you mix it with the wet.
It's with the wet. And then it's easy to combine, especially if you have a big tub of dough.
Looks like it's sturdier as opposed to a wire whisk that's kind of bendy.
Yeah,
so it's going to be.
You couldn't do a wire whisk because it would get so bogged down.
Right, exactly.
Dough. So maybe it's just the big loops are helping to mix it but not get it bogged down with dough. It's not totally necessary. Like I said, I have one and I never use it, and I make bread quite a lot. But you know, to each your own. It is like Ami said. It's what they said there is for batters and stuff. You know, I don't know. Go for it. It's not, you can get them. They can get them inexpensively.
Okay, so the open, stiff. I think this is different than a wire. Stiff loops of a Danish dough whisk are designed to mix flour and water for bread dough, but it can also be used for folding batter or stirring porridges or grits because those loops are bigger and open. Batter and dough can move between them easily and won't stick.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was reading.
No. Sorry. No, I'm just glad that you just. I was just. It won't come bogged down with batter, and the big loops will still mix it, but it won't. Great.
Okay. You answer that question.
I always get so frustrated with a whisk and everything gets stuck in it. Yeah. But then I'm always
now
I'm doing something
whisk.
wrong.
I get that. Maybe that's my most important kitchen tool.
Yeah. Put it on all of our holiday wish lists.
Your holiday list.
Dutch oven, a scale, so many things.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. And if you ever have any questions that you want answered, just reach out to us on Instagram at Need to Know Pod or Bigger Bolder Baking. And be sure that you like and subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts. Make sure you give us a rating. And thank you so much for coming here to chat with us with everything you need to know.
From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are listening to Need to Know.